why in your experience is it important to place focus on things that are inside of your realm of controllability or influence in competition, training, in the whole experience?
I feel like the easy answer is there is so much outside of our control, especially in a sport like soccer where it's not an individual sport. You have teammates, coaches, fans, media. There's so much that you can't control. And so the more that we focus on those things, the more our attention is being taken away from the things that we can have direct influence over. And the things that we can have direct influence over are the things that will most likely help us mentally, physically, emotionally improve in our sport. Just there's so many things outside of our control and our influence. So don't waste your time on all the other stuff. Hey everyone, welcome to Ditto. I'm Ashley Hatch, professional soccer player for the Washington Spirit in the NWSL, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Matt Moore. Matt, how are you doing today?
Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm doing really well. I actually have a question for you, Ashley. This has been in my mind, and I'm curious to see what your answer is. Yeah, things are going really well. Here was an interesting conversation that I had with my family. We were talking about our walk-up songs. Okay. So if you were going up to the plate, you're playing softball, baseball, or even this is where I went, like going up to the octagon and you're like an MMA fighter and you're ready to just like literally kick somebody's face in. What would be the walk-up song that you would have playing while you're coming out of the locker room, walking up to this octagon? Do you have your answer for that?
If you put it into that context of like walking into the octagon, I don't know if the song that I normally say like works. Yeah,
it's different.
The
right?
song that I normally say, and that it's a song that I used in track when I ran track and field in high school. I use it to like calm me down, get me like in the right mindset for my race because I had so much nerves. Was "My Girl" by Temptations, and I feel like I also would use that if I was playing baseball as a walk-up song. It's just like a feel-good song that everyone can connect to, like emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's a little more like chill and casual, but like still kind of gets me in the groove. But like walking into the octagon, I don't know. I had to think more about that one because that's like a whole nother level. I
know you need it. Yeah, you need it kind of dark.
I would probably have to do
intense.
something by Halsey. But I don't know which song. I'd have to look at her stuff.
Yeah, she's got some good ones. I could weirdly see "My Girl" being a good choice for MMA. It's for me. It's like maybe it could paint this picture. I mean, depending on how you are as a fighter, right, and what your record is and everything. But if you're like really bad ASS and you're winning and you're kicking people's teeth in. That could kind of be really intimidating. A cool song.
I'm really confident.
You know? I know. Yeah. Anyways, I like the choice. Okay, well then once you find out a darker song, you'll have to.
What about you? What did you say?
I had two songs. One was kind of up your alley, not as happy. But it wasn't like I don't think a lot of people would pin this song in like the rip your head off, dark pump up mode, like what MMA tends to be. It's Johnny Cash and "When the Man Comes Around."
I think so.
Have you heard
even
that
the
song?
title itself, I feel like is really
it's
good.
really good. Yeah. So he's I believe most of the song he's quoting Revelations, like from the Bible. But it's like, I mean, the words and the tune is very like, I first heard it actually training at an MMA gym. And ever since then, it was like, oh, this is a great song. Yeah. So that's first. And then my like really dark song is from Marilyn Manson. It's the only song I like from Marilyn Manson. So don't judge me, people. And it's called "Beautiful People." Have you heard that one?
I think so. Yep. Yes.
You probably have. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's the beautiful people, the beautiful people.
That's a good one.
That one. Nice. Anyways, those are my walk-up songs. Isn't that interesting? I actually funnily enough, I was in my doctoral program with other PhD students, and some of them being counseling students. And one student's dissertation / research was on music and counseling and music and psychology. And like his area of focus was walk-up songs.
That's pretty
That was his research. Yeah. I wish I knew more about it and like what his findings were and, you know, some of the supplemental research that he utilized. But anyways, I'll have to check back in with him.
How close are you with him?
I think it's interesting. I think it kind of says a lot. I know we should. I can't even remember his name. It was 5 years ago. I can see his face. I'm really good with faces. Are you good with faces or names or both?
Yeah, it's a lot easier for me to remember a face than a name.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff around that too. Anyways, we could really get in the weeds here with a lot of this stuff. Listeners, I want to hear what your walk-up songs are. Type in the socials what's your walk-up song is. I think it's so fun to see people's choices, whether it's My Girl or Marilyn Manson. I think it's fun. Anyways, so that was my opening question for you, Ash. Thanks for
that is a good question.
Playing along.
Speaking of like your doctoral program, you're looking very professorial today with your glasses.
Professorial.
When does school start for you?
Thanks. My eyes were hurting today, so I had to put on my glasses. School starts really early this year. I don't know what the school system is doing. Maybe it's here in the state of Utah, but I think it's nationwide. We start the 19th. I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the U, and it's so that'd be on the 20th, nice. August 20th. So like a month from now. I think so. I'm actually like 10 weeks in and preparing my new lectures. I was telling you the other week, I have to prepare all new lectures, and we're using a whole new textbook. Thanks to me, I just wanted a more updated textbook, and that was the trouble I put myself through. But I'm like the first 10, 11 weeks in already with like assignments and PowerPoints and lectures and discussions and everything. So I'm excited to deliver, and
that's exciting.
It's fun. Teaching's fun. Do you teach at all? And I know you do a lot of like speaking, and like people invite you to go talk at this or go do that. Do you ever do any kind of teaching?
Yeah, more speaking events, coaching more than teaching. I mean, unless I get asked to do like a Sunday school lesson or something in church. But nothing else really outside of that. Mostly just sharing experiences and speaking and that kind of stuff. But the preparation part of it is probably my favorite, because I feel like that's where I am very intentional, and I get to like remind myself of things and lessons that I've learned, and try and think of ways to be able to articulate that I can share with others so they can also relate to the lessons. And
totally,
I really enjoy that aspect of it. But the actual like standing in front of people and like speaking always makes me so nervous. But it's always a lot of fun, and I feel like I grow a lot. So I'm sure being a professor, you probably feel similar, but it's kind of fun. Yeah,
I still get nervous. In fact, I have to have a water bottle with me when I teach, because my mouth gets dry because I'm nervous. But it's weird how, like, here we go, like the awareness of your nervousness and then changing your relationship with it. Like, I totally recognize that I get nervous, and one of the symptoms physiologically for me is my mouth goes dry. And so I combat that with, like, honestly, sometimes it's every 2 minutes I'm sipping on my water bottle when I'm like really nervous. But then you get in this weird flow of, oh my gosh, I love this material. This stuff is so applicable. Hopefully they find it interesting. And it doesn't go away, but you just, get accustomed to what you have to do while getting in this state of just pure enjoyment and, telling people about something that you love. At least in my case, I know sometimes you're having to teach, whether it's Sunday school or somewhere else where, you're teaching about things you don't always love. But I mean, the old adage of, if you really want to learn something, teach it, is so, so true. I mean, you just alluded to that concept, and, I'm having to reread an entire textbook and create lesson plans on it. And, 90% of it in theory I already know, but as I'm reviewing it, I'm like, oh yeah, this theory is really applicable. Oh my gosh, this model, I totally forgot that it has this component to it. And then there's updated research with it that makes it even more interesting and applicable. So
that's so cool.
It's fun.
How many students
I love it.
do you think you'll have, or is that something that you set, or is it the university that sets that?
No, I wish. So University of Utah is a pretty big school, and the Department of Health and Kinesiology is pretty big. And so I have 2 sections where there's about 80 students in each section. And then a third section where I think there's like 70 students. So I'm teaching this semester, and usually it's 4. This semester I'm teaching 3 courses, 2 sections of exercise psychology, and then a sports psychology course. The exercise psych is a requirement, and so you get every health and kinesiology major having to take exercise psychology. And they're usually freshmen, if not kind of sophomore range. So there's a lot. There's a lot of students. It's kind of hard to formulate discussion.
With that many people.
And kind of a hands-on approach. Yeah, because I really enjoy doing that. And so I've tried to be creative and making it more interesting and more engaging for that many students. And then there's an online section of it, and so I have to be even more creative with that so they can
like
stay
students
engaged.
attending online. Is that what you're saying?
It's fun.
Or
so one section is all online, and then one section is in person, and you can register for either method or methodology.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So tell me soccer stuff for those. I know this is going to come out like later than where we are present day, but where are we at with Washington Spirit? How's the season going? How you feeling overall? Give us kind of what
season is going
thinking.
Well. We just got off our CBA break, which was really nice. So we had a mandatory collective bargaining agreement. So our agreement between the players and the NWSL, which we ratified a little over a year ago. And in that negotiations, we negotiated for a break for all players in the middle of the season. So this is our second year of being able to actually enjoy it. So Jeff and I went out to Wilmington, North Carolina and spent some time with an old teammate and friend, Tori Huster. Cool. She's living out there, and just went to the beach every day and enjoyed lots of good food and sunshine and sand everywhere.
Ooh, what'd you eat? Tell me what.
We got some really good Italian style, like Neapolitan style pizza. So that was really good. Yep.
Like wood fire burn, like throw it in a classic oven.
It was amazing.
Like, it's so good. Yep. And it comes out kind of black, the crust.
Yeah. So that was really good.
That's delicious.
We also went, Italian was our theme. We also went to this really nice Italian restaurant, and we just got a bunch of like different pasta dishes and starters and kind of shared everything, and it was amazing. And then of course we ate probably too much ice cream. So
gelato, or did you just do ice cream?
It was all ice cream. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we didn't continue with the Italian thing of
there might have been one place that was gelato. I can't remember, but yeah, just ice cream. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and now we're back at it. We have a summer cup coming up, so we have a game on Sunday, and just preparing for that. People coming back from break and getting ready for the second half of the season. Yeah. So yeah, things are going well. And then
season, that's awesome. Season is September. It kind of wraps up in September. Is that right?
No, championship is like the week before Thanksgiving, so we go all the way to November.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
it's way farther than I thought.
That's why we needed this break.
So soon.
Gotta get ready for the second half of the season. So yeah, still plenty of season ahead of us. Wow. So, but yeah, we're in a good spot.
Totally. Who's kind of top of the league right now?
We're definitely one of the top teams. I think we're third on the table right now, and then you got Kansas City and Orlando, who are both sitting 1 and 2 right now, I think. So, but like I said, like I always say, like every team is good and every game is hard. So, like last season, we went all the way until like the very last day to see who made it to playoffs, and it was crazy. They called it decision day, and for a good reason, because it made a lot of decisions. Yeah.
Decision day, D-Day.
Yeah, so it was really good. But yeah,
that's awesome.
things are good.
Cool. Are we going to talk about something sports psyche or mental performance-y today,
I
you think?
So. What should we talk about?
I know. So, audience, for those that are wondering, like, we try our best to find topics that are generalized, that anyone and everyone can relate to, especially from a sporting context. This is where the world that where we're coming from. But the idea is, for you to walk away going, oh, as a mother, as a business person, as an athlete, as a coach, as a high school student, whatever, I can apply these principles. And so that's kind of the thought processes that Ashley and I go through when we're like, okay, what topic should we choose today? What topic should we choose today? And today we were both, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, in this headspace of, we haven't specifically and explicitly talked about this idea of being able to control what you can control in the domain or the environment that you find yourself in. A lot of the times, especially in the sporting world, they call this the controlling the controllables experience, or headspace or mindset, or however you want to phrase it. And so that is kind of the theme and where we want to go today. So what do we mean by controlling the controllables? I mean, it's exactly how it sounds, essentially, right? You, in whatever domain that you find yourself in, are picking. First, you have to become aware. This is where, once again, mindfulness really comes into play. You have to know, in the environment or the domain that you find yourself in, what can I control in this space? And then you place your full effort and your concentration on those things. Here's the paradoxical thing for me, and the weird and challenging thing, at least for me, and how I teach this. Unfortunately, there's very little things in our life that we have control over. And I would argue even full 100% control is very unlikely. And so I even like to throw in the word influence. Like, what, rather than control, what do you have direct influence over? That, for me, sometimes, paints this picture of acceptance, which for me is paramount. We've already talked about this, vital role of accepting and acknowledging the reality of your situation. So again, recognizing I can influence X, Y, Z, that's where I'm going to be placing my focus. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So before we kind of go over, Ash, like, what are some of the things that you can influence or you can control? I want to ask you, especially as a soccer player, why, in your experience, is it important to place focus on things that are inside of your realm of controllability or mm-hmm. influence in competition, in training, in the whole experience?
I mean, I feel like the easy answer, which you kind of already said and alluded to, is there is so much outside of our control, especially in a sport like soccer, where it's not an individual sport. You have teammates, you have coaches, you have fans, you have media, and just that list alone, there's so much that you can't control. And so the more that we focus on those things, the more our attention is being taken away from the things that we can have direct influence over. And the mm-hmm. things that we can have direct influence over are the things that will most likely help us mentally, physically, emotionally improve in our sport. So that's my short answer for you, is just there's so many things outside of our control and our influence. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your time on all the other stuff.
It's a beautiful, simple answer. Like, don't waste your time, because it's precious, especially if you're in a very high performing environment mm-hmm. like professional soccer. The other answer that I often allude to, or I often tell people and teach people, is more often than not, when you are experiencing debilitating anxiety or stress, especially psychologically, you're going to this place of rumination, especially if it's after an event or prior to an event, right? Where anxiety and stress tend to set in. And again, more often than not, we're thinking about things that we can't control. So if it's after an event that happened, something that already happened, and maybe something went bad, you're a goalie and you let a ball go by you and they scored 1-0 and you lost the game. Okay, well, now you're ruminating on things that you can't do. It's past. Like that thing already happened. So why are we, like you said, Ashley, wasting time, ruminating, psychologically spending time, real estate in that arena? We can't control it. What we can control is what we are doing moving forward. And then with anxiety, like anxiety tends to creep up, especially psychologically, when we're thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. And we're starting to think about, again, more often than not, things that we can't control. This opponent is really fast. This opponent has scored 5 goals just in the last game alone. This team is 15-0, or whatever it might be. These are things that we can't control. But we as human beings tend, again, more often than not, to spend so much time in these areas psychologically. And so the huge benefit, one is, like Ashley was alluding to or said, is, well, spend your time wisely and don't waste your time. And one of those things is psychologically zeroing in on things that you have direct influence over. Now, what do you have direct influence over? What are these so-called controllables? And I want to break these down and then get your take, especially from your perspective in professional soccer, Ashley, what these actually look like. So for the past, 6-7 years of my young professional career, I've used this acronym APE. I don't know who I stole it from. We're always, as professionals, stealing things from other professionals. So I can't credit where I got this from. I'm sorry. But APE. So when I go over, okay, Ashley or Fred or whoever it is I'm talking to, what do you have direct influence over, whether it's in training or competition or anywhere else? It's APE. A stands for attitude. P stands for preparation. And E stands for effort. So what do those look like? So A essentially is your disposition. Like, are you going into training on a day-to-day basis with optimism? Do you have good energy around your teammates, or are you bringing people down? Do you have a positive attitude or a negative attitude? And I know even 5-year-olds, I have a 7-year-old, in fact, she knows what a good attitude is, whether it's going to church or going to school or wherever else. So you, as a human being, again, more often than not, you have direct influence on an attitude. So bringing a positive attitude to practice, to the boardroom, to relationships is in your control. So spend time in preparing for a good attitude, right? Now, before I go into preparation, let me ask you, Ashley, both kind of ends of the spectrum, negative attitudes, positive attitudes. What has been your experience both in training and in competition of this role of attitude and its influence on you holistically and your teammates as well?
I mean, it has a huge influence on me and my teammates. I would like to say that I'm a more positive and optimistic type person. And so therefore, when I'm around other people, hopefully that like rubs off on them. But as you were talking about this, I actually just looked at my journal, and I have 2 examples, that one's a good one and one's a bad one, of when I was journaling about, when I was journaling about APE.
That's awesome.
And one day I said, yesterday I had an optimistic attitude. My effort was there all day on the field and in the gym. And then this has to do with like preparation, but I also watched film that helped me find areas where I can improve on my finishing. So that one, I started with like my attitude. I had an optimistic attitude. I feel like that bled into my effort because I had a more positive outlook on my training or just the opportunity in front of me. I feel like that directly bled into my effort. And so I feel like if our attitude is in the right spot, then our effort will be going in the right direction. And then the bad example was actually just the next day. I said, I noticed my attitude drop for a split second during a drill. I let my frustration visibly show. Once it happened, I noticed it and fixed my attitude and had more helpful conversations with my teammates. So that's an example of where I feel like my attitude directly influenced my body language and my effort. But when I was able to recognize that my attitude was the problem, I was able to fix it and then have more helpful conversations or find a solution or actually move in the right direction instead of like dwelling on mistakes. So those are two examples for you that I just flipped to.
Beautiful examples. It's amazing how on both times you correlated your attitude with your behaviors and how you performed. It's amazing that connection. That this, from a scientific standpoint, is very cognitive behavioral. So CBT, it's a therapy, it's a theory that essentially highlights the importance of thoughts and its relationship with how it affects our emotions, and how those emotions and those thoughts ultimately affect our behaviors, and vice versa, how behaviors affect our emotions and emotions affect our thoughts. Having a good attitude is the engine to that.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we can have a positive attitude, and it doesn't mean people like always being this positive person, happy person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, people when they're positive, air quotes, and it's just not authentic. And then like SHIT hits the fan and it goes down, right? Because it's this facade of positivity. That for me is this toxic type of positivity. You can still be positive and not always have to smile, and not always have to be telling jokes, and not always have to paint this picture of the happy person.
Yeah.
Right? So, and find that unique and, more importantly, authentic, positive attitude in yourself. First, like Ashley was talking about, it starts and ends with awareness. You need to become more aware of where your attitude is currently, where it usually goes, and what happens. And then you can adjust microcosms and macrocosms of adjustments with your attitude from there. But then finding the authenticity behind it is where the power comes from. So then you're adjusting consistently and continuously throughout the day on finding this positive attitude and something that you can control. You're spending time in something that is worth your time, not worth your time. That makes sense. Anyways, okay, so there's the A for attitude. Then we got the P for preparation. Obviously, for professional athletes and coaches, this is a huge thing. One quote that I've always used for this preparation one is, I think it's from Gary Player. He was a professional golfer like a long time ago. He said, "The more I practice, the luckier I get." That for me is preparation. Like Peyton Manning, one of my favorite football players of all time, because he's a Tennessee Vol and he's a Denver Bronco, two teams that I absolutely love. He was the king of preparation. And there, I mean, you can share numerous examples throughout history, especially in sports, of how preparation is key to being successful, especially long-term success. Those that I would argue are in the GOAT Hall of Fames in whatever sport you can think of were kings and queens and princes and princesses of preparing, and preparing religiously for their craft. So let me ask you, Ashley, being a professional soccer player, similar to attitude, how has preparation, both good, bad, in between, played a role in your experience, individual experience, and in kind of this collective team experience as well?
Again, it plays a huge role. I think there's so many different aspects of preparation when it comes to especially individual preparation, whether it's my preparation for the day, nutrition, sleep, taking care of my body, taking care of my mind, preparing for a specific opponent, studying the opponent, watching film of myself, areas that I can improve on. Then you look at preparation when it comes to like gym and activation and cool down and warm up and all that kind of preparation. Then there's just so much preparation, so many different aspects of the game where you do need to prepare. A lot of that preparation has become habitual just because it is so important. But like from a team aspect and like preparing for an opponent, like we have a pretty good rhythm of what that looks like when we come in after a game. You know, we rewatch our game, areas where we can improve, areas that we did good, what areas from that game can we then take and implement to prepare us for the next opponent, if there are any. And then throughout the week, on different days, we'll study different areas of the opponent's game and we'll implement that into our training. So yeah, there's I could go on for hours probably on all the preparation that we do.
So let me throw a hypothetical, and maybe in your experience this isn't a hypothetical, maybe it's actually happened. Has there ever been a time where either your preparation has been cut short for whatever reason, and then as a result, how do you feel afterwards, either going into training or competition or whatever? Maybe you were sick, maybe COVID happened, maybe anything. As a result, for some reason, preparation was cut short. What happened?
I actually have a recent example. It's like a small example, but taking corner kicks is something that I haven't done since like high school. Like I am usually in the box trying to score at the ball. Last year I got asked to do it several times, and it was something that I practiced pretty regularly. But like we had a game recently where when I went in, all of our roles were kind of mixed up, and the coach asked me to take the corner kicks, and I was like, okay. And I had always taken them, if you're looking at the goal, on the left side, so I can take it with my right foot and it'll be an in-swinger. Are you following? Okay.
I am. I love that term.
There you go. New soccer term for you.
It sounds kind of dirty, but keep going.
Why did you have to do that? That's a proper term. Okay.
I know. I'm sorry.
I got in and I had to take a corner kick, but this time it had to be on the right. And I can't remember the last time I've taken a corner kick on the right. So do I try taking it left-footed or do I take it right-footed? And
could you even do it with your
but then
right
it'll
if it
be
was on the
an
right
out
side?
swinger.
I mean, is that way too awkward?
It'll curl out instead of into the goal. All right, so I can take it on the right. It's just the approach is different, and like most of the time, if you have a lefty on your team, they'll take it from that side, so it can be an in-swinger because it's more advantageous for your team. So anyway, I get the ball. I'm like, my thought process was not the best. I was like, okay, like what do? I didn't know what to do. I was like, I hope he calls it a short corner. Sure enough, he didn't call a short corner. I'm supposed to kick it in there, and I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. And it was terrible. Like I didn't even get it in the air. Like my execution was terrible. I know that I can do it, but I hadn't practiced it. And I do remember like that week of training, like kind of thinking, oh, I should probably practice this from both sides. But I didn't because I ran out of time. There were so many other things that like I practiced, and the training.
That crossed your mind before the match, before the game?
Yeah. And
interesting.
I ran out of time. Yeah. And the training before, which we call match day -1, it's another term for you. The training before.
Okay.
Yes.
Before the game.
So match day -1 training. It's supposed to be a feel good training. Like you're supposed to do. We play a lot of games. We're competitive. We touch the ball a lot. We do a lot of shooting. It's supposed to be a training that helps you like feel good mentally, physically, and prepare for the game. And usually we get like 10, 15, 20 minutes at the end to do what we want. A lot of times I'll practice my PKs during that time or shooting. And that's the time to like practice free kicks, corner kicks, any set plays that you feel like you just need a little bit extra reps on. And I wanted to get to corners, but we ran out of time and we had to go in. And so I was just like, whoops, like didn't have time to do it. So then I had that experience in the game, and I was kind of like upset with myself because like it was an opportunity that I could have helped the team, execute a little bit better on a corner kick, but I didn't make the same mistake twice. The next week I practiced it, had the exact same scenario. I went in, got asked to take the corner kicks. It was on the right side. I was in a better headspace about it. I knew what I did wrong from the last time, and I executed it well. So there's an example for you of when my preparation wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, I love it. Wow. Yeah, beautiful example again of utilizing a component of your experience that you can control to make it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Eventually, right? You learned kind of the negative aspect of it and not being as prepared as you could have been. And then the positive in being as prepared as you possibly can. I know we all as human beings can relate to this. It's, especially my domain of academia and being a student. I remember what it was like to be a student and then going into a test ill-prepared, unprepared. Well, of course, you're not going to feel good. And of course, you're most likely going to do bad, right? In fact, I remember I had to pass math.
Yeah.
Math was never my thing.
No, not mine either, but Jeff is good. So at least one of us in the family is good at math.
He is good. Yeah. My wife's actually pretty good at math as well. And of course, I needed to pass to move on and eventually get my degree. And I had experienced this same horrible preparation leading like 3 years up to this of not preparing for math tests and not preparing for homework and not because I didn't like it mostly, but I became lazy with the preparation. So finally I thought, okay, I need to change this. And so my preparation became, I need to utilize the services of this university and go get a tutor. They had tutors for free.
Wow.
Didn't have to do anything. You just had to go set up an appointment. I know. And I said, hey, I'm taking this math class. I need some help with this math. I need to, get a good grade. And they gave me a tutor. And so for the next 5 months, I met with this tutor in the library 3 days a week, maybe 2 days a week. And that one-on-one setting of him going over this math with me was a game changer. And so, of course, I went into these tests that semester much more prepared. And I got a B+ out of the class. And that was huge for me because it was D's prior to that. Anyways, utilizing this one especially, I would argue might be, maybe I won't even say that. It might be the most important of the three, this attitude, preparation, and effort. But I think all have a very, very important role. Anyways, preparation, people. Okay, so here's the last one, and we can wrap up on this topic, is effort. Again, I think something that we can all relate to, right? Quoting some of the greats, at least in sport, something that I've loved to say as it pertains to effort is Billie Jean King's, the wonderful tennis player and advocate of women's sports in general. She said, champions keep playing until they get it right. So it's not that champions are always getting it right. They are continuously failing and continuously getting better until they become champion after champion after champion, right? That for me screams effort. Knowing that failure is a part of the process, especially in a sport. For me, following softball and following baseball, where failure is a part of the game. I mean, if you're hitting 3 out of 10 pitches, you're considered really, really great, which sounds really, really weird. 3 out of 10 is not very good. But in the game of baseball and softball, it's excellent. You're batting 300, and that's an excellent batting average. And so for me, it's this kind of growth mindset orientation of knowing that effort is paramount in whatever it is that you're doing so that you can get better. If we're not putting effort into things, we're not going to get better. And something that I've always advocated for and I've always taught is, as it pertains to effort, is, you're never going to consistently on a day-to-day basis fill 100%, whether it's soccer or business or school or whatever it might be. And that's okay because you're a human being. It's like a phone battery. Sometimes you forget to charge your battery overnight and you wake up with 30%. And then sometimes you leave the phone in the charger and you're at 100%. That's the same for our activity, our physiological and psychological batteries. We just aren't consistently always feeling at 100%. But here's the thing. The important thing is to give 100% of whatever percentage that you have for that day. That's effort. Recognizing that I'm at 75% today. I'm not feeling very well. I only got 5 hours of sleep, but I'm going to give everything I can to what I have for today. That's improvement. That for me is success. And that is effort and is something that you have direct influence over. So similarly, Ashley, let me ask you, what has the concept of effort played? What role has it played? I'm going to get this question right. In your experience of being a professional soccer player.
Similar to the other two, a huge role. I feel like effort is probably one of my favorite because I feel like I'm a very hardworking type player where it's like when I'm putting in the effort, I therefore have like more confidence, and therefore that confidence leads to just more success. And effort is one thing that I feel like I always turn to if I feel like I'm not playing well, or if I want to improve, or if we lost a game, like the first thing I want to do is go practice again or go try again. And I feel like that is where the effort piece comes in to things that we can control. And just even growing up, that's something that my sister and I always did. We always put in the effort. We always, when in high school, we would run sprints. We would do these PK runs every single day where we'd line up on the 18, and one by one we would take a PK, and you'd have to, as soon as the person took it, you'd have to run to half field and back. And then anyone who missed it had to go again. And if they missed it, we'd have to run there and back. And my sister and I were the two annoying players that every single rep we put in that effort. We didn't like sandbag it until the last one. But I think effort is huge. And when you're consistently putting in that effort, then you will continue to see improvement, and you will get to, no matter what is outside your control, you will improve as an individual and as a player. And it will also, I feel like, build your character, and you'll be able to figure out what you're capable of, and you'll be able to push your limits, and you'll be able to just continue to climb. And so effort is something that I think is just paramount when it comes to sports in general.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Ditto. It's interesting to talk about effort specifically with people or individuals that don't know that threshold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they haven't gone in the
Totally.
uncomfortable in whatever domain it might be, especially in a domain like sport where physically is kind of the uncomfortable. They haven't pushed themselves to exhaustion or where they're going to throw up or even being in a real high pressure situation where you're having to kick a PK or having to shoot the game winning free throw. And so it's interesting to, again, have this conversation of, self-discovery is required so that you know where your efforts lie and how much you're actually able to give, because guess what? You're probably able to give a lot more than you think you are. One of my favorite guys to read and to listen to, and he has a wonderful book, is David Goggins. And he has this amazing quote, I'm paraphrasing here, that none of it's backed by evidence-based research, so I'm coming from pop culture here, which is fine. But he's been through so much. He's a Navy SEAL and like a Green Beret, and he's run 1,000 like Ironmans and ultra marathons. And anyways, his quote is, again, paraphrasing, is usually as human beings, we've only given 40%. That's the number he landed on, with what we actually think we're capable of giving. So when we think, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted, oh my gosh, mentally this is way too hard, it's in his mind, in his theory, and in his lived experiences, which is very much, it's only 40% of what we're actually able to do. And so it requires going in the uncomfortable. It requires pushing the limits in a safe and respectful and reasonable way, kind of on that day-to-day basis, so that you can, again, harness this amazing component of controllability, and one of them being effort.
Well, I mean, I feel like your attitude and your preparation can directly influence your effort. Like, I know for me, when
100%.
my attitude is
100%.
right, when I have put in the preparation, then my effort is going to be there. It's going to increase. I'm going to have that confidence because of my preparation, and my attitude is going to drive that body language of like, okay, I believe in myself, I can do this. And I feel like that corner kick example is a perfect example. Like, my attitude, the Ashley who just totally botched the corner kick, I could have dwelled on that. I could have like had that paralyze me, but like instead I was like, okay, my attitude is going to be, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to put in the preparation, and then therefore that my next effort of doing it was better and it improved. And so now that is going to therefore fuel my next effort, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to like, okay, I'm going to continue to prepare because that's what brought me success. And so I think if your attitude and your preparation are in the right spot, and if they're there, then your effort will automatically benefit from both of those things.
It's amazing to see the correlation and the relationship of all three of those.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. As you just expounded upon. So people out there, get your ape on. Become your inner ape. Feed the inner ape, which is your attitude and your preparation, your effort. I promise, and I know Ashley can attest to this, it will make life a lot easier in whatever domain you find yourself in, especially from a psychological and emotional level. You won't be tied down to rumination and anxiety and stress as much. Now you still, because you're a human being, are going to experience those things. But the trick is the awareness, the acceptance, and then going to those controllables, going to those things that you can influence during training, during competition, during the meetings, during whatever it might be, and then consistently practicing, going to these so-called tools of controllability.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was helpful, everybody.
I think so. I think one thing that's helped me is, like we've referenced the journal many times, but if anyone is looking for something to actively do with this stuff that we're talking about, like write on a piece of paper, how was my ape today? Attitude, what did it look like? What was my preparation? What did that look like? What was my effort? What did that look like? And I just feel like that increases your self-awareness. And then the next day, I feel like you'll be able to reflect on what you've written, and then you'll be able to just continue to improve. And when you look back at your week, you'll see the progress that you've made. And it's very rewarding, but it's also an action that you could take to actually do these things and apply them to your life. So I just want to invite people to do that.
Love it. Wonderful exercise reflection. Yeah. How was your ape today? Love it. Yeah. Wonderful way to improve. Excellent advice.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we wrap this up?
Our favorite part.
Okay.
We don't like saying goodbye, but bye.
I know. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, comment, share your walkout song, all of the above. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Do that.